Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, it didn't take long at all. We're already in game number 2. Complexity, they're up 1-0 in the series. Best of 5 grand finals for the ESL 1 Genting NA qualifiers. And, well, pressing all the right buttons. And now, heading straight into the draft. Slaughter picked up once again for Complexity after a tiny for Immortals. So far, carbon copy, at least as far as picks are concerned. But Immortals, they take out the Z-Freak Witch Doctor.
They left in a Sand though.
They did, yeah.
But yeah, addressing that one, I don't really think the Witch Doctor was like that big of an issue. I feel like, well, yeah, the hero did do a lot. Don't get me wrong, and Z-Freak of course did do a lot, right? Yeah. Being able to turn the fights around, that is definitely something Witch Doctor does really well. But at the same time, I feel like it wasn't so much the Witch Doctor as much as it was Immortals' inability to actually kill Complexity in those engagements. And I feel like if it had been any other hero with just a decent amount of disable and burst damage, granted, it's not easy to find heroes like that, but I feel like that could have been any other hero in that position. Then again, Z-Freak, you know, you kind of want to pull him out of your comfort zone, and forcing the Dazzle, a more defensive hero, out of them is not bad either. This probably moves coL towards the Dazzle and then Z-Freak towards the Slaughter, though coL has been... Actually, I'm not sure if Z-Freak has played the Slaughter. I'm going to look it up, but I'm not sure if he has ever played the Slaughter. I honestly think it would almost going to be like a 4th position Z-Freak Dazzle, and then we see, you know, carry build like Phase Boots, Solo Crest, and Dazzleator or something. I wouldn't put it past him.
Maybe, yeah. Or this is a 1 position Slaughter. Who knows, really?
Dazzle has some fantastic carry talents, so, you know.
He does,
you never really know with Z-Freak.
It's one of these things, you know, one of these pop strats almost that will certainly catch you off guard.
10 seconds.
But the question is, like, are you feeling comfortable enough trying that out in a grand finals like this? Maybe Complexity are, right? That maybe they feel like high on everything, and for now they have every reason to. So yeah, maybe pull it something like that. If nothing else, just based on these two heroes, regardless of their what position they will be in, farm priority-wise, it is again a bit of a minus armor strat, right? You have the Corrosive Haze, you have the Dazzle Weave, and he might just build at least a Medallion, if not a Dazzleator.
For sure, there's going to be lots of physical damage coming out from Complexity. And indeed, I did look it up. Z-Freak, the last time he split Slaughter was like 7 months ago when coL wasn't even support. So, I would not be surprised to see them have Z-Freak on the Dazzle. It's something they always like doing, really. Have coL on those mobile heroes. Yeah, technically he's a 5 position support, but he still roams a lot. Yep. And then we see Z-Freak on the heroes like Winter Wyvern, Dazzle, more of a heroes that have scalability without needing that one punch item that, you know, Slaughter needs to blink in order to scale. He really cannot just go without it if he wants to scale as a support. Whereas these other supports, they have a lot of ways to scale in terms of utility items or even carry items in the form, you know, Winter Wyvern, something that Z-Freak loves playing after all. The bans look also very familiar with the Puck and the Tide Toucher taken out, but Immortals once again respecting the Viper or a hero that Complexity picked previously. I do think Viper was an issue for them because it was a hero that couldn't kill. Yeah. He was a hero that won his lane and was difficult to actually lane against. Right, so this is definitely a really good pick, especially if they do choose to run the tiny mid again. Yeah, definitely a very unfavorable matchup for them.
That is absolutely correct. So you already feel the effect of that last game. So in and of itself, it's a nice position to be in, like mentality-wise. Like when you're Complexity and you see them ban on all the heroes from last game, or like some of them, it's gotta feel good, right? You gotta feel confident going into the next. But at the same time, of course, it also means that you have to pull out something else right the hell now. There's still plenty of other heroes, right? Even in the mid lane that are still good against Tiny. Most notably the Razor that was last banned, I believe, in last series. So if Complexity want to go for something like that, they can pick it up right now. Wouldn't be the worst combo with a decent amount of physical damage. And for now it's a Brewmaster though. So classic offlane hero, pretty solid these days, especially with a little bit of support. You can just multiply his threat potential there and his contest potential even without being zoned out.
Yeah, this dual offlane, if they choose to run it, the Dazzle Brewmaster, can be very deadly indeed. And this is always something that I've been looking forward to when watching Complexity, really. I think Z-Freak and Moo have a sort of chemistry that only few players have in the scene in certain.
Remaining.
I remember, they used to run like it was a couple of metas ago, of course, but a Legion Commander IO offlane. It was just so deadly. They were basically winning everything that they were facing. So this is definitely something I look forward to. Brewmaster, of course, a very strong hero in a sense, because you can take out the Tiny, you can just lift them up in the air, have a lot of solo kill potential, and the one weakness is that you are cooldown reliant with your ultimate, but of course the new talent does allow him to, or not the new talent, but the talent that they introduced in 707 at level 25, basically have like the ultimate up all the time. It's like a 20-second downtime or something. Actually,
15 seconds.
Yeah, less than that. Yeah. So if he chooses to, and if it ever comes to that, he could itemize in that direction. We've definitely seen Brewmaster pick up the Midas just to accelerate that process.
Looking at Immortals though, like again, Tiny Elder Titan, first one to punch, and especially Elder Titan, it's also here that they've played in every single game up against VGJ Storm yesterday, and they also ran this combo with the line, and that's one of the games that they won. Yeah.
Radiant
I'm still not completely sold on it, but there are these fancy synergies just in terms of pure magic damage, and it does give you that extra bit of control factor that they've kind of been lacking in the last game, right? This more reliable in initiation, more reliable control than the Elder Titan in and of itself. But they're certainly going to need that up against the Shadow Fiend now being picked up by Complexity.
5 seconds remaining.
Well, I definitely also prefer this Immortals lamp over the previous one, just because Bane is a strong hero, don't get me wrong, and you can definitely hold down and burst or lock down certain heroes, but it is just a single target ability as well. Yeah, Lion also has only single technically. Well, Burst Spike or Impale is a multi-target ability, but generally speaking, in a way, he is somewhat similar to Bane, but he is much more flexible in his disables and making sure to lock down people. Of course, he also has the burst potential with the Finger of Death, so seems a little bit more threatening. Certainly with the Clockwork, a very dangerous hero to play against. Also more lockdown potential, really. Especially against these kind of heroes that don't necessarily build into the sort of like mobility items early on. We might see Shadow Fiend being forced to an early Force Staff instead of just building potentially drums first or Yasha first, or just sometimes even you see obviously the Dragonlance first before you see the actual Force Staff of the So this is definitely he definitely has a Force Staff. Like no other hero here is going to build one.
So yeah, in that sense, Clockwork is pretty good against Shadow Fiend. Like if it goes down, also if Clockwork goes down that Blade Mail route, should have an easy time bringing the SF down if he doesn't have that Force Staff. But it's not so much as a counter pick in this game, because I don't think Complexity really have room to pick up a Clockwork themselves here to go for the Shadow Fiend Clockwork Cox pick.
No, I don't think so.
But it's also pretty decent with the Brewmaster, and also fills that role of alright, we need an initiator. Who's it going to be? Tiny with the Shadow Blade? Alright, that's one thing. But ideally you want more options than just one. You don't want to shoot on yourself like that. So Clockwork with the hookshot, pretty decent against not just the Brewmaster, but also even the Dazzle and Slaughter.
For sure. He has a little bit of kill potential, of course, as well on the two supports. And in teamfights, it's just actually very valuable. Just hookshot into the middle of things, dropping cogs, making sure Complexity can fight together. Making sure you create as much chaos as possible. Cog's mana burn is also going to be very effective against most heroes here, and just the pushback in general. So, yeah, they have a bit more AOE control now with the Cogs, with the Elder Titan Spirit. So a lot of ways to combo that as well, of course. But that does mean that Immortals now going forward, they need another carry that just has more punch, and I just hope it's not going to be the Luna again. I really think they need something more reliable, something they can fall back on, but also something that doesn't necessarily die too easily against this combo or this aggression coming out from Complexity. Because I feel like a hero like Luna is just way too vulnerable, because they need to, heroes like Luna need to build into stats item first, into defensive items first, and even then you're not really contributing that much. So this is pretty much the hero I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
Well, I say looking forward to. I'm not a big fan of watching Dusa, but of course, Immortals, I feel like the Dusa does tie this lineup together much better than the Luna did in the previous game. And unless Complexity pulls out something weird, I do think Immortals have a much better chance at this game than they did before. But I still think I favor Complexity's lineup, even disregarding what they pick up now, just because I feel like their lanes are a little bit more straightforward, and their sort of win condition is a little bit more straightforward. Or I say that even though, of course, Immortals, they just need to get the Dusa fat, but I feel like Complexity have a very straightforward laning stage and then mid game, and they have a lot of ways to already deal with the Dusa.
You may now select
Now I favor Complexity definitely, like
Yeah.
100%. What do they throw against the Broodmother again?
Well,
Split shot, I guess.
yeah. I mean,
But
there are a few things, right?
Yeah.
You have kind of have the Storm, you have the Lion Impale, but like and Tiny has a bit of AOE control, but it feels rather weak somehow, right? Against the Broodmother, especially early on. It's not going to be enough here, especially with the changes, with the Spidlings being a lot more tanky up against all of this magic damage and whatnot. And yeah, so Complexity basically just going down this route. Hey, we see a timing to just hit you in the face and bring down all your buildings again before you even get that Medusa to a stage
10
where she's
seconds
powerful.
remaining.
Like, yeah, you have the Broodmother that can just dominate the laning stage, just push down one or two, one lane, then the other, just depending on your web economy. You have coL once again on the ladder, Zephyr going to dazzle, so they're going to look to roam around, do crazy things. As long as they can keep Lim safe on the Shadow Fiend, he should be having a good time. Can always just fall back into the jungle with razors, as we keep saying here throughout this entire qualifiers. And then you have a Brewmaster, right? You can play around this ultimate and just basically keep the ball rolling. It's Immortals. It's gonna be on them to try and throw a wrench in that particular plan. But if they can't, then I'm really worried for them still.
I will say that if this was any other Immortals lineup, or if this was any other lineup, I do think there are a lot of weaknesses in this draft from Complexity. Of course, they are quite weak against a little bit of aggression coming out. But if you just look at the lineup from Immortals, they can't really pressure Complexity that heavily as they would probably need to. I feel like the Tiny needs to spiral a little bit out of control together with the Clockwork enable in order for them to do that. There is that potential. Don't get me wrong; they definitely can. Like this Clockwork can definitely spiral out of control and just be very disruptive. Again, a lot of solo kill potentially if he does get ahead. But generally speaking, I do favor Complexities just because based on the lanes already.
Yeah. All right, quick pause. Febby right now is disconnected, so hopefully he'll be back. So, are they actually gonna run these heroes, or are they gonna switch? Yeah, it looks like it, right? I mean, Febby on that 4 o'clock with the boots, and 4F on the Elder Titan as the 3 position. Right?
This I prefer. This actually I prefer. I automatically assumed it was going to be the offlane Clockwork, but this I prefer because the Clockwork is much more aggressive than the Elder Titan in the lane, and they need that coming out from them. The ET also, as an offlaner, can also just build into more utility items, which I definitely need. And the good thing is, and I've talked to, I think it was Lacoste actually yesterday. I talked to him about it. The issue with an offlane Clockwork is that it doesn't really do that much more than a support Clockwork would. And as a support Clockwork, you at least force out, I mean, we talked about it. He forces the SF into building an early force stuff as a support. That is huge value already. That is something that the core obviously does as well. But if you have it as a support, why not just run it as a support? And, with the Lion, of course, they have much more kill potential.
Right. Bit of exchange here. coL being well-mannered. Moo ready to chaz it up again, and Febby is right back. And we're ready to go. Game number 2. Starting now. Complexity up 1-0 in this best of 5 series. Let's see how it works out with this particular draft.
Let's see how the lanes are going to work out again. Looks like Complexity are looking to, invade the jungle, or invade the bottom lane again, and just get early information. They need, Complexity always wants to know where everybody is laning, because they tend to swap around the lanes quite a bit. And in this game especially, I wouldn't even be surprised if they potentially even have the Broodmother, bottom. Yeah, they put the web in the mid. It's something that we see Broodmother always do these days. Sort of fake.
It's going to recharge anyway, right? And you still have the extra one anyway, because I believe the web charges are the same as the maximum amount of webs these days. It used to be that you only had the one net anyway, but 2 maximum webs.
All right, looks like it is going to be the Tiny down here, and I believe that should put the Broodmother top. I think she handles that lane quite well against the Dusa. Or rather against the ET. Actually, ET with the Spirit, it's not that bad. I will say, of course, the Sparta links have been buffed. They, they have actually magic resistance and armor and whatnot. So it's not that bad, and they regen quite fast under the web.
I do get a lot of extra bonus damage though, right? And bonus speed.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So maybe you don't want to just fuel Fabi up like that. Or 4 in this case. Fabi was Elder Titan last game.
Alright, down
what's going
here.
on now, by the way? Settings, alright.
I don't know.
Gotta make sure those are in order.
Let's look at some of these starting builds. Pretty standard across the board, really. Yeah, of course, Forev starting with a stout shield.
Yeah.
Tiny against Brewmaster is actually an interesting matchup. Brewmaster,
30 seconds.
you actually
to
could like create a whole pool of weird melee hero matchups. Throw an Omni Knight there as well, Tidehunter. Those heroes that usually do well against other melee heroes, but then against one another it becomes really convoluted because it kind of depends on how the lane begins. It isn't always as clear cut as it may seem, and generally speaking, Tiny again does well against other melee heroes because of that additional range from cheat grab, and of course the AOE he can.
The battle begins.
He can harass quite efficiently, but against the Brewmaster spam coming, Drunken Beast spam, difficult.
Well, so we'll actually end up meeting each other because right now Moose up top as Forev grabs the creep wave even past the tier 2 tower. And look at this early observer ward as well. It's extremely uncommon, and I gotta wonder how much value they're actually gonna get out of that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it depends on whether or not they're going to be able to bully DSF out of the lane. If they bully him out of the lane, they're going to get a lot of value out of this.
Yeah.
And I like this. MP blocking the creep cam or the creep wave for his mid laner, or something we've seen quite a while or quite a bit from a couple of teams.
Not just that, for Fabi also threw out the cogs to make sure that they actually stayed on the high ground. So the counter block from complexity didn't even matter as much. So a lot of emphasis put on this mid lane already.
And bottom lane, we do have the Broodmother versus the Tiny. I don't foresee Tiny having a good time here, especially with Kyle also sitting here.
Yeah. Gonna punch him a little bit, Chessie. I mean, level 1 is still alright. Exo's not going actually through Kyle. He should be doing the math and just realizing, hey, I can still get out, no worries. But now, Chessie is, with the extra couple of levels, like the more levels he gets, the more dangerous he becomes as well. Extra webs and extra spiders here, so he can start building up his army, and that's where it becomes a real danger zone. I mean, Lion will not be able to stick around in this lane for too long. Especially not if he's sitting in a web, and if there's a big spiraling army, he's just gonna get run down and killed. Meanwhile, mid to overrate. First blood actually happening into Z-Freak. Running into Fabi, and that's the strength of the Clockwork. With the barrier sword, just being able to run down and almost solo kill these supports.
Definitely. And this is why I like the idea of moving the clock to the support position, of course. Or, just picking it up as a support in the first place. I don't really think they ever considered it as an offlaner here at all. Because it makes so much more sense as the support, and this laning stage right now actually pretty good for Immortals. Really, really, really good. The MP Tiny, I totally underestimated this, but of course, cleave ignores armor, so he can just cleave down those spiders. It doesn't really matter how much armor they do have, and you can already see Chess. He has to be really careful with how he positions them.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of being careful, Dubu, this is where Chessie will be, between the lane and the camps, making sure he can skip and making sure that Tiny has to farm underneath his tower, and then of course hunting down these supports.
Yep. Single tree toss almost gets everything, but not sure what Dazzle was doing there, but he
was contesting the pole. He can't really, or most teams try not to just let the offlaner get away with this, because of course they could just run towards the top creep wave, right? Just pull it back to between your tier 1 and tier 2, and they have like an easy time farming. And a lot of times you see the supports contesting this, but of course with the Clockwork also being there, there was no chance Z-Freak would get out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, this laning stage is going fantastic for Immortals, effectively winning all 3 lanes. I say winning, even though, of course, bottom is quite even. But I think, Tiny drawing even with the Broodmothers will win in my book.
Yeah. That's something that I haven't considered, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, he keeps tossing not just trees, but also just units to clear through these spiralings. So Chessie so far hasn't really been able to build himself up a big army whatsoever. That also keeps Dubu safe in turn, so he can stick around and
Mid lane,
help them out.
Limp is
Ooh.
being dove.
Diving really hard here, but juking around the trees. Fabi will die in return. Zifrik claiming that kill, and now, well, also gonna turn to right click up against the Medusa. But can't really win that trade just yet. Limp right back, but, well, now back to a very few souls indeed. He's been under a lot of pressure too. And he might be forced into jungle sooner than he wants to.
This is the issue with the support down. Double raises here from Limp, putting Kyo very low, but of course, it is a Dusa. It's not an easy kill by any means.
Look at his bottom rune.
Oof.
That is the regions, and so far he's not walking towards it just yet, so...
As a Dusa, you never really want to walk towards the rune unless you really know what you're getting, and of course they don't have any vision here. But yeah, that mid lane engagement, if Zefrik is level 3, probably completely different. But of course he has a level deficit onto the Clockwork, because Clockwork as a roamer just a little bit more efficient thus far. Natural, really.
Yep. Nella also actually made this lane adjustment. Moo, teleporting down bottom. But Tiny
followed the Brute Mother drop top.
Yeah.
This is really smart here from Immortals. They just need to this Tiny Brute Mother matchup. Again, I totally underestimated this. I just completely forgot the fact, again, Cleave ignores armor, so these Spiderlings just die very quickly, just a couple of punches. Look at this.
Yeah. Well, Spider Rights at least. Spiderlings starting to get a little bit more tanky. So, again, the more levels the Brute Mother gets, the easier that'll become. But still, Chessie not having the best start just yet.
That said, what's going well for Complexity now, or rather, this lane swap is still pretty good for them, even though they still have the same matchups. This puts now Moo in the off lane and not in the safe lane anymore, so Elder Titan can't do these pull shenanigans anymore. Bottom lane, the Hex onto Kyle with the stun following it up as well.
Some max range stun here. No Storm coming through just yet. They were waiting out that crush. There it is now. Only catches the Brewmaster. Farov taking a lot of damage in the process here. He cannot really feel too comfortable continuing to stay in the front lines here.
Again, the landing stage, though, going pretty well here. You can see, though, the adjustments already. Just because of the lane adjustment, Moo's already farming that much more efficiently. It is a bit deceptive, the amount of CS he has, though. Some of those are creep camps that he was able to pull on the top wave, so it's not the same amount of CS as, or the amount of... Actually, if I look at the net worth, he's actually... Oh, no. It's quite even with the Elder Titan.
Yeah. I mean, CS in general doesn't really mean too much. Even 47 on MP, a lot of those were these Spiderlings or Spider Rights. Where the CS does matter though is in mid, and Shadow Fiend has been able to catch up quite a bit. 16 and 12, so he's now up to a good number of souls. 3 points up on the Shadow Rays. So Medusa has a bit of a harder time just zoning him out at the very least, but at the same time, Limp cannot feel too confident, has to play very defensively to maintain that.
Yeah, this is top lane. They're looking at MP, the huge spider army, and Kyle, of course, roaming around.
Well, Avalanche, another just took all of these instantly.
And with now strength treads available and the magic.
The toss on the Z-Freak. All right, leaves us a creep buff here. Fabi already used the cogs. Still getting a few extra points of extra battery souls off. Now the Avalanche coming through to secure the kill. Well played indeed. Using toss in creative ways like that. That's what Tiny is all about.
Honestly, this gank attempt felt very much like the Immortals in the last game, where they attempted to gank Complexity. They just didn't have enough damage, because, by this time, MP with strength
trying to go to Cure. 1 raise, 2 raise, and third one still available. But with a mana shield, he barely has enough survivability to withstand that.
10 stick charges as well, though. He wasn't really in danger of dying there. He knew that he was going to survive, didn't even need to use them. So again, these ganks right now from Complexity just don't have enough damage to actually punch through somebody here. With this, though, yeah, that should be enough here for sure.
First Brewmaster's ultimate finally secure another kill for themselves. And that's always what you want to see if you are a fan of a team that runs the Brewmaster. That's the first split. If that leads to a kill, it's a sign of good things to come if you can maintain that kind of momentum.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Still though, MP. Despite the CS being a bit inflated, it's still a lot of gold, a lot of extra gold coming his way, so he's still seeing a 3.8k net worth towards a 3k of Moo. And continuing down bottom, double stun here from Dubu though.
about 800 gold ahead of the second place in net worth. That is insane on this Tiny, and bottom lane
He's
has to
so
be really
careful
careful.
here,
This is
dude.
so greedy from
Hex,
them.
they have another stun available here, and gets it off. But the heal's finally coming through, gives Moo a little bit of extra to work with. And he's pretty fast on his feet, but Fabi looking for the interception. Another stomp will be enough to finally get the kill.
Freak is playing very aggressively, wants this kill. Kyle's also coming in. This is not a good decision here from Complexity to choose to take this fight. Z-Freak might fall. No, well, they would have had another Spirit up soon. I feel like they could have chased it potentially, but
They'll shine for 60 seconds. Have to
I
work all the way
wonder.
back
I
to
wonder
base.
if they didn't know the shrine was down. If the shrine, I feel like if they know the shrine is down, they probably hunt for this kill. And then again, it's also just a
Radiant's top
support,
tower is
so maybe
under
they just
attack.
felt like it
Yeah.
wasn't worth it. It was a lot of time wasted already.
Also, the movement speed was going to expire from Forov,
Oh.
so didn't really have the ability to catch up easily.
But yeah, Complexity cannot afford to lose Moo's to give away kills on Moo's Brewmaster like this. After all, he is pretty much the hero that has to create the space in the mid game with the two supports.
Yeah.
Fabi catches him all. He didn't really do anything, just being annoying, really.
With open the tower,
Dire's
he
middle
does
tower
eat his
is
way
under
through the
attack.
cogs, and now Z-Freak just showing his face again, making sure that his friend is safe. Chessie on the other side of the map is doing brutal things, continue to skip the creep at the release, and does sort of keep the tower
Dire's
safe.
top
MP still
tower
has
is
one
under
more
attack.
to take it up a little bit. And of course, he can also dispatch the creepers rather easily, especially with the skin build he's going for. Makes it a tree grab rather than the Avalanche Stars combo.
In the jungle, Limp now falling back and clearing at least one stack and starting to form in the jungle here. They'll most likely give, Kyle already rotating to the mid lane, knowing that there's going to be free farm. Not necessarily free farm, but at least free experience. I feel like Complexity needs to slow down the game a little bit. Maybe, if at all, just commit to kills with the Brewmaster ultimate, but outside of that, they really need to just be careful and just not give away anything, really.
Yep.
Because right now, this is the time to shine,
Are
and
scanning.
quite literally, because there's a shiny item on MP. He has the Blink Dagger up, and now they have
Radiant's
vision
top
onto the
tower
Broodmother.
is
They know
under
where she
attack.
is. Blink Dagger, again, is available.
Good number of nets, webs available. Fabi, well, he has to deal with these spiderlings until MP comes through. Reveals the Blink Dagger, try and help up. Oh, this
God.
is so disgusting, actually.
So much gold for him.
Those one hits and the
Dire's
toss,
middle tower
and
is
all
under
of those
attack.
spiderlings are gone. Hook shot, I heard it, but it missed.
Yeah, Kyle very
Dire's
low.
middle tower
Yeah.
has
Gonna
fallen.
survive unless Fabi hits a godlike rocket.
He
Actually,
already
it's still not
used
gonna
it.
be enough.
Used it
Well,
already.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Godlike. He has to hit it in front of the fountain.
Yeah.
But
That's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. And also, Kyle's not low enough anyway.
Yeah.
Mid lane, they do lose the tower, or
Radiant's
rather,
bottom
Immortals do
tower
take it,
is under
and
attack.
immediately the Medusa rotates top, realizes if she groups up with Tiny, there should be another
Dire's
tower.
top tower
And
is
right
under
now,
attack.
Complexity, they have nothing against this, and I guess this is also a weakness in their own lineup. They don't have any deep pushing
Dire's
whatsoever.
structures are fortified.
Yeah, all they could really do is try and put in some pressure on the other side of the map. Chassis
Radiant's
just continue to
bottom
try and
tower
find
is under
anywhere
attack.
to farm safely and
Radiant
easily. He's
structures
still
are
going for a
fortified.
Deathlighter build, so more minus armor.
Dire's top
Which is still
tower
something that they
is
can
under
rely on,
attack.
right? You have the Dazzle, you have the Slaughter, you even have the Shadow Fiend. Starting to put
Dire's
points
top
into
tower
the path up rather than the Reckoning Souls. So you have a lot of actual minus armor stacking up, and well, now gonna try to put a bit of that to use on the Medusa. And at the very least, they force out the doors with a nice little stun, make sure can actually turn people to stone here. Brewmaster's ultimate still coming through before that can happen. Fabi stunned up, a couple extra right clicks. Stick charge is keeping him safe for now. The hookshot blocked by one of the Brewlings, and he will die to one more punch. Moo getting that kill, lifting up the Elder Titan up in the air, crush onto MP just to try and keep him away. But now Dubu with backstab, big old ultimate. The Finger of Death brings down the Shadow Fiend, Z-Freak in front lines.
Radiant's
Cure
bottom tower
secures
is
a double
under
kill
attack.
with
Radiant
one more
structures are
arrow.
fortified.
A
That
very,
backstab extremely effective there.
a very overzealous attempt from Complexity. They felt overly confident because they have a ward behind the tier 1 tower, and they just went in from the back line. But of course, without a Blink Dagger available, it was a very awkward initiation, right? They have to walk in past the tier 1 tower, even tanking a few shots there and running into Medusa, who of course does have the ultimate available, and she did buy enough time for the tiny rotation to come in. They do trade very unfavorably, but I suppose at least it does give a little bit of space to Chessie. But I'm not sure that's going to be enough in this game, really. You know, Chessie already switching lanes twice. He started down here, went to the top, has to come back down here. The mark, or pretty much the sign of a very bad game for the Broodmother thus far.
3 heroes around him, he's trying to find a way in. He's gonna lose all the spiderlings, hacked up, brought back into the pushed back by the cogs. He's trying to juke and jive, but it's There's very little ways that you can do that. More nets, or more webs, I should
There's
say.
a blink available. Man, he's gonna blink after her, but
Almost.
not gonna.
Could've gotten the
Maybe
avalanche,
with the
for
rocket,
sure.
yeah. Cancel the TP for
Oh.
sure.
It's one more web. He should finally be safe, but so much time wasted. I guess not just from Chessie, but I mean, there's 3 heroes trying to run him down this entire time. So.
That's actually not that bad for him. Well, not that bad for Complexity.
Yeah.
Of course, they do know that he's still here, so they're just sitting around waiting for the waiting with the rocket for the rocket to come off cooldown again, and they do get the kill finally.
Well, bit of an issue. So this Brute Mother not really paying off just yet. Limp also not exactly caught up, sitting at 4k net worth here, same as for the offlane on the Immortals.
Regeneration.
Who's going for the Aegis build, so easy setup for himself, but then having to rely on his teammates.
They do have a blink now available on Mu, and he is posturing himself around the mid lane. Again, he wants to make sure that he always uses that ultimate as often as possible, because he has to be the one to create that space.
He's the same aggressive Complexity right now. He
Effectively, yes.
needs to make sure to get as much value out of that as possible. And now, well, coming in, stop will connect though, and in the middle of the back, Kyle intercepted by Femi and PN is going to be brought down. The ultimate committed the hook shot though to intercept, and go on Z-Freak. Complexity already made the decision to disengage down. Well, that's the opposite of what you want. You lose your 2 supports. And the Brewmaster split wasted.
I don't know what Complexity were thinking in that engagement. They were once again diving past the T1 tower, of course. They by the way, they don't have vision around here, so they didn't even see the other people around there. And then, of course, they do see 2 heroes, and they still don't back off, despite that those 2 heroes being the Dusa and the ET, making that kill very unlikely. And Kyle,
Yeah, super unfortunate. He smoked up to go on the warding mission, but Immortals
yeah,
in the right position at the right time.
Complexity is currently losing a lot of map control right now, and Immortals invading the enemy jungle. If they take one more tower here around here, either the tier 2 top or tier 2 mid, they're going to have a lot of control over this jungle, and that means resources. Limp, the Shadow Fiend, has been sitting in this jungle, or in these jungle parts for the entirety of the game, or for most of the game really, because of course he has been shut down. And if they take away the jungle, and they already did take away an Ancient Stack, he's not going to be able to come back that quickly.
Yep.
Again, he's below the Elder Titan in terms of net worth.
Dire are scanning.
It is very worrisome.
Radiant's bottom tower
Especially, it's
is
not
under
just
attack.
MP who's just gaining a lot of gold from that. I mean, he already has a Shadow Blade that only needs to have it flown out on top of the Blink Dagger. So, max mobility build coming out from him as per usual. But it's also Medusa, right? Kyo is sitting right up there with him to continue to farm up stacks and feeling very confident. I mean, they've gone on him for a couple of times, but he always survived and he always
Dire's top
was
tower
able to
is
turn things
under
around.
attack.
Smoke gank here from the 2 supports on Immortals side. I'm not sure how effective this is going to be because they don't really have any good vision here. They do ping her out, and with the rocket they can make vision happen, of course. MP is also invisible, has the Blink Dagger available. And
Chessie
Chessie,
flies, trying to
gonna
be
get
honest,
caught
it happened. 3 different stuns, they're stacking it up, but it doesn't really matter.
Really good rotations here from Immortals across the board. They know they just need to keep on applying pressure, and they're shutting down the hero that's doing the best in Complexity thus far. Brute Mother at 6k net worth, obviously is still 2k behind the Tiny, but at least holding on. But they're applying a lot of pressure onto that Brute Mother, and ET getting caught out here.
Finally they catch a break here.
Without committing
just in
anything,
time.
really. That's
Yeah.
a fantastic pickoff for them. But it's just the beginning, really. They need more pickoffs like this. Because, of course, you know, as a Brute Mother gets pressured, Complexity are pressured to apply pressure elsewhere as well to make sure they're at least getting a trade-off, they're getting something in return.
Yeah.
But right now, aside from that ET kill, they're not really getting anything right now.
I mean, if you look at net worth distribution, I mean, top 5, 3 of them are still on the side of Complexity, but again, they're getting further behind from the top 2. And even the net worth that you do have is not actually all that effective. If you look at the Broom Mother, sure you have the Desolator, but Chessie's with that alone, he's not really in a position to like put that to good use outside of split pushes, right? He's not exactly in fighting shape unless he has a lot of help and can just free right-click people without being a force, essentially.
Radiant
And Chessie's
are
And,
other
under
oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also look at the Shadow Fiend, who generally wants to be the one that's ahead, because that's where he has his most effective power spikes. So these kind of kills, they do help to get them back towards that position. But overall, like technically speaking, Wu is the only one that's still like where he can be, where he's comfortable. A decent amount of network, you have to blink. You have a bit of utility here and, with the mana sustain from Soul Ring and whatnot, and the Primal Split now down to 2. And well, they look to make use of that minus armor that we were talking about to get Roshan and Immortals. They're ready, they know, they want to contest this MP with a bit of combo and mid, not quite enough to bring on Limp, follow-up stun into the Earth Splitter, and the Finger of Death here, Limp almost dead, the stun connecting Dubu, once find Ruggies, but Shallow Grave comes out in time, a couple of raises here and there, but QO with the ultimate Limp still, no immediate follow-up, he's able to walk away, the Toss finishes him off, meanwhile, Elder Titan still dies, Q continuing to fight, Chassis, not being caught by that stun, trying to find Dubu in the back, perhaps something that is... Complexity have nothing left to throw at them. Until Mu comes in, but the split already used. It's only gonna be his right clicks as well as the thunderclap. Stand up again, Dubu. Continuing to be a nuisance. Somehow there's still a 3 for 2 trade. Complexity. Continue to do the chassis. Alright, he finally says enough is enough. He gets himself a double kill somehow. Able to dodge out all of this power that Immortals actually have. But ever since they brought down the Broodmother, they can actually feel very comfortable continuing and as I say that, yeah, they
doesn't even get it.
Yeah.
Honestly, Chessie, MVP of that fight for sure. Going up and down the hill with those webs, making sure they can't actually nail him down, and he's able to go in and out, juking and effectively kiting them around, making sure, yeah, they get the advantage early on, getting that Limp kill and getting everybody else low, even getting rid of coL very early on.
Yeah.
But that Broodmother was so elusive in that fight, and I really love that they rotated together with Chessie. You don't really see that too often, the Broodmother joining these fights that early on with only one item, right? She has a Desolator, that's about it.
Yeah.
But they knew that if they take a good fight, and then they can immediately transition it into Roshan. Unfortunately for them, they got Roshan really low, and now it's Immortals that are going to take it. I doubt Complexity can contest this.
Of course, ready to do so here, Brewmaster. 20 seconds still left on the ultimate. Roshan will fall way before then. That puts this engagement into a whole different light.
Still, I think if you're Complexity, this was just a huge confidence play for you. Yeah, you give away Roshan, but at the same time you take a team fight and you know that you can win those team fights as well. You can bring down the Dusa. Tiny is still a little bit of an issue, but again, it is a confidence play for sure. And I think I feel if you're Complexity, you realize if you take the fight maybe just a little bit differently, have a ward up, have a sentry up, scout out MP early on because he wasn't on angle where they had no vision whatsoever on him, right? If you have vision there on him early on, you don't get caught off guard, and maybe even Limp gets off an ultimate, and then the fight's completely different.
Oh yeah. Like Limp almost died there to the initial blast. He tanked so much. He tanked like what, the Earth Splitter, the Finger of Death, Shallow Grave kept him safe a little bit, but then he also got Stone Gazed. Like he almost survived that if it wasn't for a toss coming through. So if he then goes back, maybe I'm not sure if the shrine was up or not. Don't believe so, but if he survives at the very least, of course he doesn't lose a lot of net worth. Maybe he even finds a way to go back into the fight and tilt things a little bit more in favor of Complexity. But well, for now, they still lose the Aegis, trying to put some pressure on this tower as 5. They do have another Brew Split available, so it's a little bit tricky for Immortals to perhaps go in, but the fact right from the backstab again.
They want the courier first.
Sentry down, the courier dies, alright, MP will lose himself.
Dire's courier has been killed.
And well, when will they pull the trigger? There it is. The stomp on Broodmother. Meanwhile, the hook shot in the backline down to coL. So taking him out of the fight at the same time. Finger of Death will zap him, but Dubu taking a bit of damage in return. Mu will finish him off with another clap. 1 for 1 so far.
They have an arcane rune on
ultimate doesn't have enough mana.
What's the mana?
Oh no. That is not what they wanted, and now Immortals. They can take this momentum and grab a tier 2. No Brewmaster means there's no threat, really.
And they still have the Aegis, of course. I was just about to say, they have an Arcane Rune on the Brewmaster. They want to fight here, or at least use this ultimate. But of course, the Mystic Snake does steal the mana, and he's not going to get out of there. Chessie, speaking of getting out of there, they do have the vision onto him.
MP right on top of him with the combo. Swats him down like the nasty little bug that he is.
I can't believe Complexity has been this careless. They've now fought twice in this area in front of the Roshan pit, or they've been there without actually having Invis detection against the Tiny, who's had a Shadow Blade very early on, right?
Yep.
And also on top of it, they're getting scouted out by a ward. So Immortals always knew the entire positioning from all of Complexity, and
no.
This is a very careless play.
Root into Storm Shell Grave. Might have to come out here, but still holding on to a Q, continuing to focus on the town. That is Root coming in with a vengeance. Follow-up crush, but Medusa's still very much alive and a lot of mana to work with, so they just lift him up in the air, trying to find what else they can, but setting up for Limb. I think they slightly mistimed that. But still, enough damage to trigger the Aegis at the very least. The rest of the models ready to turn around. MP with the combo onto Z-Freak, taking him almost up, but not quite. Shellgrave still available here. Has to use it himself. Might not be enough. The last right click. The rocket just in time. Up on a high ground to snipe him.
Really.
MP, he's not done yet. Toss back onto Moo without the ultimate. He's very, very vulnerable indeed. Lim trying to do what he can, but he gets hookshotted up. Chessie coming in, gets pushed back by the Cogs. The avalanches. Just so much tankiness, so much damage here coming through from Immortals. And they're just diving the tier 3s past them into the base. Limp, not long for the world either. They're all a buyback, but well, at the very least, there's no creep if they immediately. They can have some extra seconds to think about whether they want to use it or not.
Dire's middle tower
They might be forced to. But even if they do, no Brewmaster split available. Not even the Shadow Fiend ultimate is available. So how can they really take this fight? coL doesn't have a Blink Dagger, so that's not an easy initiation for them either. And indeed, they do allow them to take the mid-racks. What a huge engagement from Immortals. Just really well played on all fronts, really. Just hitting the timings and hitting their spells, of course, as well. This MP Tiny, no offense to Kyo, but so much better than what we've seen in the first game. Of course, a much different setup as well.
Yeah.
But Tiny, or MP rather, making the most out of this hero and being involved in 15 out of 21 kills.
Absolutely insane. It really reflects on the net worth here. It's MP and Kuro. This duo, this duo pool, just so far ahead of everybody. 14k on one, 13 on the other, and Chessie's the only one who's he's the closest, but he's not close. Right, if that makes sense. Sitting barely at 9.5k.
By the way, remember in the draft when we talked about the clockwork factor and the Force Staff? Of course, Shadow Fiend in this game couldn't possibly afford to buy a Force Staff just because he's been pressured so much.
Yeah.
Instead, the Brewmaster now had to buy one. And this is the power of not only the hero himself, but the kind of position they've been put in, or that rather Immortals have put them in, right? Forcing even a Brewmaster that never buys a Force Staff into purchasing it. It's not a bad item by any means. It gives him more mobility, in fact, which is nice. But of course, ideally, as this hero, you want to build into other items, auras, or just even the Midas again, like we mentioned, to get that level 25 talent early on.
Well, gonna lose 2 towers in a bottom lane. Might trade for tier 1, yeah, they just picked that up themselves, but they have to defend here. They cannot afford to give up another sort of Rex, can they?
They're just not in a good
Like,
position
can
right
they
now.
defend at all?
They have to all TP in. Broodmother is also low on mana, and yeah, indeed, she's regening up in the fountain right now. Also doesn't have any web set up, so this is not a good fight for them. coL does have a Blink Dagger now.
That is
Misses the first crush, though.
Oh no. Now hexed up. Master Split coming through, and Shellgrave already is early. Chessie with the BKB, trying to bring down duo whatever he can. Dropping low, 1-2 more. Yeah, does get the ultimate off though, finishing on coL. So he's down for the count. No more crushes in this particular fight. The stump will connect just as BKB expires. Broodmother now controlled up. Burst it down. One more punch from MP. And he puts himself on a monster kill streak. Moo, well, his Bruce Split expired at this point. Fairly ineffective cure. They haven't even begun to account for him. And the Skadi just continuing to slow people down, just chase them all the way to the fountain. And this is probably it, isn't it? Yeah, GG, well played. Complexity realized it too, and well, what was once a best of 5 is now down to a best of 3. Scoreline 1-1 in these finals.
An absolutely strong performance from Immortals here. You can definitely talk about the draft in the landing stage, but I do think you have to give props to Immortals for this really strong performance. Rotations absolutely in point, completely different what we've seen before. The timings, the angles more so than anything, really. Always finding those angles, making sure they never get scouted out by anything, really. Yeah, you could also fault Complexity for not having the necessary vision up, but at the same time, it is so difficult against these elusive heroes as well. We have the early Shadow Blade and Blink Dagger on MP, of course, and then, of course, the support duo, Febby and Dubu. Febby with really clutch rockets, always scouting out the Broodmother and enabling about 3 to 4 kills on her as well, right? Shutting her down that way, and just really strong performance from them. Gotta give it to them, but at the same time, Complexity just looked that much weaker with this draft.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe they should, you know, with the Witch Doctor being banned out, I think this sort of like started this draft into somewhat more passive direction where they didn't really have enough in the early game to actually throw at Immortals.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of lost the laning stage overall. Limp wasn't really able to get too much done. Just starting off, he was forced to just spend a lot of time in the jungle, catching back up, and instead of just aggressing onto Immortals. And then you had the Broodmother completely taken out of this game by this Tiny. So, well, there you have it, guys. If you have a Broodmother picked, just pick Tiny and make sure to kill all the spiderlings immediately. Apparently that worked out extremely well. So whatever network chess he had, like, he still needs to play extremely hard to actually put that to use. Like that one Roshan fight that we saw where he's just scattering up and down the high ground, where they were able to actually win it. They still lost the Roshan afterwards, right? It was too little too late at that point almost.
Definitely. It is worth noting out also, I think, also huge props to Forev's Elder Titan. The way he was able to not necessarily shut down the Brewmaster, but also just being able to farm up on the Elder Titan, right? Being able to pull out a creep wave after creep wave and pressuring the Brewmaster as well. Really made it difficult for Complexity to have anybody have a good laning stage. Broodmother and Brewmaster want to have good landing stages so they can steamroll in the mid game, but neither hero was able to do that. We saw Chessie move around lane after lane after lane after lane, and then Brewmaster, not with a lot of impact. Yeah, he gets an early kill with his first Brew split, but afterwards we haven't really felt his impact at all. And it's not necessarily because of move, but more so because the kind of position that he was put in and the rest of his team was put in.
Like, if he's the only one that's doing well, like, you still need your team to follow up. Like, Brewmaster, you have a crazy amount of utility, but very limited amount of damage actually coming in from that ultimate, unless you just focus on one. Like, the kills that you can get solo are, like, what, do
the
one
supports
line.
for sure.
And that's about it in these games, but... Well,
by the way, and this should be noted, and we could even possibly look this up, but Duobu hasn't died a single time to Broodmother. Usually Broodmother feasts on these supports, on these weak supports, and even Febby...
Yes, Chessie killed him twice, but not on the landing stage for sure.
Oh, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Oh, alright. Well, still, only twice, and he didn't kill Febby once. That's the point I was trying to make. You know, the fact that you don't really kill the supports as a Broodmother, that's kind of what you want to do. You really want to kill the supports. You want to be able to sort of pressure them the entire time, making sure they're starved, but it's the other way around. They are the ones to starve you. They're the ones to apply pressure onto you. Yeah. And again, really strong performance from Immortals here. Looking forward to that Game 3.
Yep, that's going to come up in just a couple of minutes' time again, so get yourself a drink or a snack, but be back in time, as it's starting in just a few minutes' time, so don't go too far away.